Just find the notes and we can start. Thank you everyone for your patience. Good. So, hello and welcome to this live QA. It's a bit delayed. We had a bit of a slow start, but hopefully we'll get up and running soon. I am Robert Abela, the founder of Melapress. Uh, with me, I have Joel. I don't,
Hello.
Hi, Joel. Finally,
Yes, yes, managed to get it
yeah,
sorted.
no worries. Thank you everyone for your patience, for waiting. So, let me just restart basically. I'm Robert, the founder of Melapress. With me, we have Joel. Do you
Hello.
want to give us a quick introduction, Joel? Just a few lines of who you are.
Yeah, sure. My name is Joel. I've been working with Melapress around 4 years now. I've been working with WordPress for a very long time. I remember starting with Joomla, eventually moving to WordPress. I'm very interested in WordPress and IT security. Yeah, and work with Melapress as a technical writer.
Good. Thanks. Thank you for introduction. So a bit of an introduction. We'll be streaming this live on a weekly basis every Thursday at 4 p.m. Central European Time or at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sorry, today it was a bit late, but yeah, hopefully next time we'll have much less problems. The idea is we're going to discuss a topic about WordPress. Today's topic is how to clean a hacked WordPress website. Basically, you can ask us any questions during the live session. However, of course, if you are watching a recorded session of this, you can always send us questions later at questions@mappers.com. Of course, it would be nice if you can email us, if you can ask questions live. I will be seeing them. In fact, as soon as we get any questions, if they are related to the subject we're discussing, we'll answer them there and then. If they're not, as long as they're about WordPress, we will answer them right after our discussion, basically. Hello to everyone. I see like a few people are saying hello. Thank you for joining in. So basically, yeah, as I said, today we'll be discussing and answering your questions live, and we discuss the topic of how to clean a hacked WordPress website. Um, it sounds like a lot of people talk about this, but unfortunately, this still happens very often for a variety of reasons. We run a security survey every year, and on our latest survey shows that 72% of our respondents had at least one breach, and half of them experienced more than one breach on their website. So let's get started. I think the first question is a bit obvious. Like Joel, how would you know? How do you know that your website has been hacked? Are there like any signs one should be looking for to realize that the website has been hacked?
Yes, there are signs. It's worth mentioning that a recent IBM survey has shown that it takes organizations uh, an average of 200 days to recognize there's been a breach. So it's not always as evident that that your site has been hacked. However, having said that, there are signs that you can look out for. The most obvious one being redirections. So, of course, it can be your entire website redirects to maybe a spam website, or else you can have links embedded within your content, whether it's pages, posts, etc., linking to spam websites. Another sign is website defacement, where whoever has breached your website adds certain elements, whether it's text, images, CSS, to basically show whatever they want. This can be done for a variety of reasons, either from a competitor or as someone just wants to have fun, basically. An unexplained drop in traffic, that's another sign. And if in WordPress you find unknown user accounts you didn't create yourself, so then they start to pop up everywhere, that's another sign that basically there's been a breach. Those are some of the signs.
Good. Yeah, of course, there are a few other ones. I think a few other ones we can also mention. For example, yeah, Joel mentioned drop in traffic, but there are also an increase in traffic. For example, if you have a website which applies to a specific local market, to a specific country, and usually have, I don't know, like 80% of your traffic is coming from your country or from a specific country, and all of a sudden you start seeing a huge increase in traffic from another country or from a range of other countries. That could also be a sign of a hack. Um, Slow website can also be a sign of hack. And also, if you have the Google Search Console tools usually, and Google identify that you have malware, you will receive an email. And sometimes, if Google recognizes that you have a malware, they will also add a warning. So when people are browsing are going to access your website, they get the warning that your website might be infected. So yeah, I mean, like there are quite a few signs. That's why it's very important to keep an eye. Basically, always keep an eye, even like on the analytics and logs. It's very important. Okay, so let's say okay, we identified that our website has been hacked. Of course, there are people who have backups, some people who don't, or even if you have backups, like maybe they're infected. Like okay, so from where was the first step of the process? So you identified your website has been hacked or infected with malware. What is the first step in recovery?
So the first step is to take a snapshot of your website. We're going to do this for a variety of reasons. First of all, is to preserve the evidence that there's been a breach. We can investigate it later in our post-mortem, and it will help you with digital forensics as well. And if you don't have a backup, it's basically a kind of backup. We can use it to work on it. As I mentioned earlier, it's not always evident that you've been hacked. So the backup might, even if you have a backup, it could very well be infected. So even so, we're going to take a snapshot of the website and we're going to set it aside for later. That's the first step.
Good. Okay. So now we've set up. Yeah, we've taken a snapshot. As you said, it's very important, of course. By the way, it's a point which I've experienced in the past myself. It's very important, by the way, to take the snapshot as well, because as soon as you change something in the website, for example, you take it into maintenance mode, which Joel will explain a bit later on, it might be the case if the attackers still have access to your website, they might notice a change in the website. They might notice that you have identified them or identified what they're doing. So they might escalate their game. So it's very important to take a snapshot so at least you have something you can work with later on or even. Okay, so now taking a snapshot uh, as backup. Maybe we don't. Anyway, let's assume we don't. Okay, so what is the next step then? Continue.
Exactly. So we're going to check if you have a backup or not, whether you can access WP admin or not. How urgent is it that you get your website back online? How technically confident are you to basically to go through the process? Whether you want to involve someone else, for example, and answering these questions will help you determine which route to take. Once we've done that, as Robert mentioned, we're going to put our website into maintenance mode. This will avoid further infections, whether it's our users, customers, or visitors, and we contain the problem basically.
Good. It's also very important to put it in maintenance mode because not just to stop infecting other users. There are a few other points. First of all, there is also, especially if it's a business website, there's your business reputation because of course, yeah, if customers or prospects are coming to our website and they see it's hacked, it's not a good sign at all. And secondly,
Exactly.
yeah, it's easier to take your website offline or when put your website in maintenance mode for a few hours, hopefully, and and, and basically, yeah, uh, there's a bit of an echo. I think so.
Okay,
Anyway,
let me
so
try
it's
this
easier to
again.
put your website into maintenance mode then Google recognizes that your website has been hacked because that can short term or even long term affect your ranking. Okay, so now we've identified it. Um, we've put our website in maintenance mode. Uh, let's say we don't have a backup. Yeah, and now yeah, what's the next step? So we hopefully contained the issue. Now, what is the next step in the recovery?
Yeah, so if we don't have access to WP admin, we're going to need to access the website files through SFTP. If we do have a backup or if we take in the snapshot, we can restore it to a staging environment. Now, staging environment can be done through the hosting provider. Most do offer this functionality, and it makes it easier to push from staging to live. If your hosting provider does not offer a staging environment, or if for any other reason you don't want to do that, you can do it on your local PC or laptop, whatever you have, using something like WordPress Studio. So we're going to restore the backup or the snapshot and restore it there so we can start working on it.
Good. It's all yeah. It's a very important point, by the way. That's it's at this stage. It's very important to have to ensure you have access WP admin if possible. But of course, you're going to need access to the database as well and the files, as Joe was explaining. So it's either SFTP or your web host via cPanel and all this stuff. So it's very
Yep.
important, by the way, even if you're not hacked. That's why it's very important to always ensure from time to time you still have access. You can still access your web hosting account. cPanel works. You still can access your files via SFTP or SSH or something like that. I know it might sound like common sense, but you'd be surprised how many people, unfortunately, don't even know where their website is hosted. So if something happens, they don't even know from where to start or where to go. So it's very important to have all those details always up to date, and you can always access these things. In fact, most of the work, as Joe is going to explain, like replacing files, it has to be done via SFTP, SSH, or via a web host, and not via the WordPress WP admin. So yeah, anyway, so
Exactly.
so we've accessed the file now. We have access to the files. Yeah, what's next, Joel? No,
So basically, we're going to start with reinstalling WordPress. This basically makes sure that we replace all of the existing files with a fresh copy from WordPress.org. The idea behind this is that if any of the files are infected, we're going to remove those infections. So we can reinstall WordPress in one of two ways. So either through the WP admin, you basically reinstall WordPress from the update screen, or else if we access through SFTP, we can basically download a copy of WordPress, extract the files, and simply replace the files in the WordPress folder. The same way that we've done that, we're gonna do the same with the plugins and themes. So delete everything and re-upload them. Now we can either do that via SFTP again or through the backend. The only issue there might be here is if you have a highly customized theme and don't have a backup. So at that point you need to take a decision. So all of this is about risk management. You can never eliminate risk, but we can reduce it. So if you have a highly customized theme but no backup, either can speak to the developers, see if they have a copy that you can restore. If not, push comes to shove, just leave it there. And because the next step, we're going to be scanning for infections anyway.
good.
Yeah, and basically by replacing the files, we are lowering the risk of an infection remaining there.
Good. Thanks. By the way, a quick reminder. We have the live chat. If you're following us on YouTube or LinkedIn, you can always ask us a question and we'll answer it right away here. If you are watching a recorded version of this, you can always still send us a question at questions@melapress.com and we will answer them in the next session. Okay, so now Joel mentioned, like, yeah, you're going to replace the files. A bit of a side note here, like I mean, like, there are, of course, like, for example, if a user account has been hacked and the password has been reset, that's a change in the database. So um, Joe looks later on, of course, there's some work that can be done in the database, but typically most hacks, especially with malware infections and stuff, typically is done on the file. So it's either the WordPress index.php or some vulnerable plugin file and stuff like that. So by replacing by the safest option is like instead of reinstalling WordPress via the WP admin, by actually downloading WordPress and replacing the files that you have on your website, you are literally basically refreshing the WordPress install and making sure that if there was, I don't know, an infection in index.php, that file has been replaced with the proper file. Okay, so now we've replaced the files, Joel. We've replaced,
Yep.
let's say, okay, maybe I had some issues with the team. Maybe, by the way, if you don't find the maybe if the team is infected and you don't find a clean version of the team, maybe it's still safer to run temporarily another team, a more basic team, until you fix the problem. Because if you go, if the team was infected by reinstalling and reusing that team, you're going back to square one, and there's no point in this whole exercise, basically. So yeah, what's now? Yeah, we've restored the
So
files
yeah,
basically.
we
We have access. You want to tell us a bit more?
yeah. So we've replaced all of the files. So now we're going to scan for any infections using a malware scanner plugin. This is out of an abundance of caution, since we've already replaced the files. But just to err on the side of caution, we're going to scan for any infections. There are
Good.
many plugins that you can use. Yeah, and do not install five different ones. Just pick one, stick with it. Um, uh, You need to choose whether you're gonna go with the free or premium version. But yeah, we'll basically do a scan.
Good. Again, another side note here. There are quite a few good plugins out there. Some services also have an online scan. I think Sukuri has one for sure. They only scan, I think, 2 or 3 layers, but it's very important to point out as well that most hacks usually, or if there are malware injections or stuff like that, they are either on the home page or on some other sub layer, but not very deep into the website, because of course the aim of hacking a website usually is to distribute malware, and the homepage is typically the most popular page. So if you even if you use free tools, typically, unless the malware is nested somewhere very deep in the website, they will detect it. So even if it's a free service, I mean, if you still have doubts, as well, there are also a good number of premium options available. Okay, so now we've scanned our website. Let's assume, okay, so we've restored all the files. We've scanned our website. Everything is fine now. What is the next step now?
Yeah, so the next step is we're going to look at the user account on our website. So if there are any accounts you don't recognize, obviously remove them. If there are any inactive accounts, disable them. Reset all passwords. And at this point, it's worth adding a password policy just to make sure that new passwords are basically following best practices.
Good, good. Yeah, yeah. It's a kind of like a bit of spring cleaning of the user accounts, basically.
Exactly,
It's
exactly,
the right
exactly.
time, maybe, because sometimes you see it happens to everyone. It happens to the best of us. Sometimes you might, I don't know, you have created a temporary account for a developer or freelancer, and yet hasn't been used in months or years. It's the right time, yeah, to go through everything. So of course, yeah, disable, reset all passwords, change at password policies, but also make sure, like, if there are accounts which are no longer used, might as well. It's always safer to delete them.
Yeah,
By the way,
and sorry, go ahead.
no, sorry, it's a quick note. We're seeing some of the questions coming in. Thank you very much, guys. We'll start when we're discussing that section. We'll reply to those questions. In fact, we have a question right now because we spoke about plugins. Someone asked, like, is it safe to use free plugins? What, what do you think, Joel?
Yes, 100%. It's definitely safe to use free plugins. What you need to look out for is when the plugin was last updated. So if it was updated a year ago, 6 months ago, probably should stay away. How responsive the developer is. So you can look on, if you're looking at WordPress.org, look at how they answer, what sort of issues they have. And as long as it meets your needs and requirements, then it's totally fine for sure.
Good.
Uh, by free plugins, I do not mean nulled plugins. Those you should stay away from, but free plugins, yes.
Of course, yeah. Because now plugins, just for clarification, are premium plugins which usually have been cracked to be used for free. Quick side note here. Yeah, we're lucky we have a direct like WordPress.org. You can, of course, there are vendors who have their free plugins which are not available on WordPress.org. That doesn't mean they're insecure, far from it. They're good plugins overall. But on WordPress.org, you can see the ratings, how often, like, if the vendors reply to the support questions, how responsive they are. And it's not always, by the way, it's not always the case. But of course, if there's a free plugin and there's a premium plugin, usually the chances are that it's well maintained, because of course there's a business behind it. But it's not always the case, but in most cases that's what it is. Unfortunately,
Yep.
sometimes some free plugins are orphaned. It means whoever are developing them or a group of people no longer maintain it. It can happen, but yeah. So that's why it's important to check how often it's updated, its rating. And if you want to download a plugin which is not on WordPress.org and you cannot see any ratings, of course, you can always search online, Google or whatever, search like for plugin reviews, maybe for other people who have used this plugin. Maybe they shared their experience and stuff like that. Okay, so now,
Yep.
yeah, we've used the plugin. We restored the website. We scanned for malware, revised user accounts, and yeah, then of course there's the next step, Joel, which is the next step,
Yeah.
basically. Now that we have fully restored the website, but we're still on the staging, right? We're still on the staging
Yeah.
website or backup, or yeah.
Excuse me. Yes, we're still on staging. So the next step is we're going to check for any available software updates, WordPress, plugins, themes. Make sure that everything is updated. If uh, if your hosting provider allows you to update PHP or whatever, make sure that everything is updated as much as possible. And yeah, that would be basically the next step. update everything.
Good. By the way, a quick reminder, because we just had the other question, don't forget that we are answering questions live, so you can always ask us any questions. And if you're watching recorded version, you can send us your questions@melapress.com, and we will answer them in the next update. Okay, so yeah, now we checked for updates. So we have the staging or offline, whatever the other website. The live website is still in maintenance mode. So if people go to the website, they say like we're under maintenance or something, it's very important to take it offline to maintain the infection. Okay, so now we've checked for updates. Everything's up to date. New files, all the accounts have been reviewed. Maybe all the accounts have been deleted. You know, it's been scanned for malware. So you've done the best you can. So what is the next step now?
Yeah, so the next step is now we're going to do a WordPress hardening, where basically, as much as possible, we try to increase the security of our website. There's
Good.
a number of things that we can do here.
But yeah, we can discuss those, of course. In next. So at this stage, I think yeah, we're ready basically to move live basically.
Yes, yes. So once we've done the hardening, there's one other step that I would like to mention.
Sure.
Is so We do offer a plugin which is completely free called the Melapress File Monitor. And what this plugin does is basically it scans your WordPress files, and it will create a hash of your files, and we'll use this as a baseline. So if there is a future infection which will alter the files, it will alert us straight away. It's
Good.
a completely free plugin. It works in the background, and it will help us a lot identify any future infections, not after 200 days, but straight away.
Nice. Yeah, in fact, that's why I put this question on the stream. We've got some other questions, but this one is kind of like exactly related to what you were talking about. So LJ has asked us a question. I have a question. When I got a hacked website in the past, a bunch of random files appeared in cPanel File Manager. Is deleting these files and updating plugins enough, or are there any other steps I should take? Very good question, LJ. Yeah. So basically, yes. You can delete those files uh, but by deleting those files and restoring the original files of the plugins of the theme of WordPress, it should be enough. Unless, of course, I mean, like, by the way, keep in mind that we're kind of like still discussing this at a very high level, as in like, if there's a hack in the database, if a user, if there's a backdoor or something, of course, and that's why in the first step, Joel mentioned that you should take a snapshot of the website, because in one of the future sessions we'll discuss this as well. Like, how can you analyze, do a post-mortem analysis of the hacked website? So, because ideally, when your website has been hacked, you should find out from where it was hacked. Because if you don't know from where it was hacked, let's say, I don't know, let's say you're using some sort of old plugin which you cannot update, or maybe it's no longer maintained and it's vulnerable. Yeah, you can restore as many times as you want, because if you restore the same old plugin that had the vulnerability that was exploited for your website to be hacked, your website will be hacked again. You can clean it as much as you want. The same process will happen. So yes, as a rule of thumb, yeah, you can typically delete the extra files, restore the files, and that should be enough. The plugin that Joel mentioned, it's ours, Melapress File Manager. It will tell you, by the way. It does identify the plugins. It does identify the WordPress core files. It compares them to the core on WordPress.org. So it does. It will tell you as well that, like, if it notices any files, like these files are not part of the core, then it's, of course, it's up to you. But at least it helps you. It highlights these things. We got
Exactly.
another question quickly. How do you take a snapshot of a site? There are a few ways. I mean, you can start from a backup and download the backup to keep it there. WordPress is a very simple web application. So as long as you have a copy of the database and a copy of the files, the public HTML, that's basically a snapshot. I think, Joel, some hosting providers might also give actual snapshots now, like some.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you
It
might
will
have.
depend on your hosting provider.
Exactly. In fact, good point to mention, like, especially since we mentioned backups before as well. Yeah, like different backup services. Yeah, you can have a backup service which you can see not just the latest backup, but you have the backups at different stages. How was your website yesterday, a week before, 1 month before, a year before, etc. So of course, the more snapshots you have, basically, snapshot is just another. In this case, let's put it this way: it's just another term for backup. If you take a backup of what you have, if you don't have if unfortunately you don't have any backup tools or whatever and you want to take a snapshot, it's as easy as logging in via SFTP or SSH. Take a copy of all the files that you put on your computer, zip them up, and if you log into the web host cpanel phpMyAdmin, you can access the database and export the database to an SQL file, and that's enough at least to start working with. When you're going to do a post-mortem analysis, then that's enough to work with, because just from those files you can basically move your restore your website
Yep.
everywhere else. So yeah, and now of course the last step is move the website live, which means
Sure.
yeah, copy the files. I think once you move the website live, it's very important, even though it's live, even though it's clean. I, it's important to log out and check it as a website visitor, right? I mean, if you have any team members, ask everyone. I think
Yeah.
te-
Test
any
every link,
form, yeah. If you have a
everything.
pricing page, shopping, like test everything. If you spot anything, because anything could be a sign of, yeah. So that's very important. It's very important to test everything,
Yeah, I
because
mean,
you're
sorry, you
no. Go
should
ahead, Joel.
be doing the testing whilst it's still in staging before you push it to live. But once it's live, retest. Definitely,
Exactly.
100%.
Exactly. And yeah, I know most people, especially if they have the website in maintenance mode, and if you have like an e-commerce site, you are losing money as your website is offline. So I understand most probably the rush of let's take the website online ASAP. But well, your website's already offline. Um, take your time. I'm not saying like just take days, but make sure the testing phase is very important, because you'd be surprised. Not the first time, maybe another file is still lingering, maybe you missed a plugin. In fact, it's very good, for example, maybe while you are restoring the files, prepare a list of plugins that you have, write it down so you can start checking one by one. Did we restore this? Yes. Restore this? Yes. And so yeah, the testing phase is very important, because the last thing you want, you've taken the website offline, maintenance mode, you put it back online after a few hours and you discover there's another issue. And then you have to take it back online. So
Exactly.
I understand, yeah, people would be in a rush, of course, but take your time to restore.
Yeah, yeah,
Good. I think that's it. I mean, that's it, right, Joel? I mean,
yeah, yeah.
we have, by the way, we have upcoming sessions for next week. We're going to discuss the next step of this process, which is like hardening of WordPress security. We'll just, again, it will be a brief overview, but of course we can expand on it at a later stage as well. And the week after, we'll be discussing as well a bit like the post-mortem. So like that's why you take a snapshot of the website so we can analyze what happened. In the meantime, we have another question. Yes, does having an SSL/TLS certificate, this is the HTTPS, protect your website from being hacked or your customers from being infected? You want to start, Joel, or
Uh, Not really. I have a TLS certificate, so SSL, we don't use it anymore. Now we're on TLS. It basically encrypts the traffic from WordPress, between WordPress and the visitor or the user or the customer. It does protect from man-in-the-middle attacks, but not really from infections.
good, good. Yes, in fact, it's very important, yeah, to mention SSL and TLS are two protocols. TLS is just basically the more modern version of SSL. SSL have some issues that, and so it's no longer used. But yeah, what it does, as Joel said, yeah, it just encrypts the connection between you and your user.
It's
Well,
important to have it, just to be clear, even for SEO purposes and for security and for compliance. Definitely important, but it's not going to protect you from infections per
exactly.
se.
Yeah, it has other scopes in the whole. It does help with security, but for other things which we can discuss in the future. But in this specific aspect, it doesn't help your website from being hacked or from infecting your customers.
Yeah.
We've got another question. What if I cannot access the WordPress dashboard because of the hack? That's a very good one. That's actually it happens quite often, because most hacks, especially if an account was hijacked, yeah, most probably they change your password or change user. You want to
Yeah,
explain a bit,
yeah,
Joel?
yeah. So if you can't access the dashboard, we'll need to access the website through SFTP. So basically, log into SFTP and replace all of the files through SFTP.
Good. There are also, by the way, let's say, yeah, if the account was renamed, for example, that's a database thing. So as such, replacing the files maybe sometimes not enough. In that case, there are a few ways. You can either go to the web to this. cPanel, your web host cPanel or something else, access the database with tools like phpMyAdmin, and manually change the password from the WP underscore users. There are ways and means how to do it. It's very easy. Or there's also an option. You can find PHP files online which you can upload to your website, and when you access them, they act as sort of a backdoor and they allow you to reset the password. I mean, it's important, of course. If you ever use this file, which you can, I think we might have something on our website as well, most
Yeah,
probably.
yeah, we do. Yeah, we
Yeah,
do.
if you use that file, it's very important that once you are ready with the recovery, delete that file,
Delete
because
it.
of
Yeah.
course, if someone else finds it, you're in big problems. I think that's it. We don't have any more questions for now. A quick reminder. First of all, thank you everyone for logging in. Thank you for your patience, especially in the first few minutes. We had a few
Yeah,
technical
sorry for
issues.
that. Yeah.
It's fine. It's live. It's the first time we've done it. So let's before we close completely, unless another question comes up, like, shall we recap a bit, Joel? Maybe give us a bit of a, yeah, 2 3 minutes summary, like what is the process now? My website has
Yeah.
been hacked, or let's start from the beginning. Yeah, you identify your website is hacked. Now, what are the steps to go back
So,
to life?
so we've identified there's been a breach. First step is to take a snapshot, keep a copy somewhere safe on a thumb drive or something. If you don't have a backup, we can restore this snapshot in a staging environment. If you have a backup, you can restore the backup into staging environment. Now, we don't know whether the backup is infected or not, so we're going to go through this same process, whether we're using a backup or the snapshot, which we know for sure is infected. Once you've done that, you need to put your website into maintenance mode. This will avoid further infections and it contains the problem. We've done that. Next step is to reinstall WordPress core files, plugins, and themes. We can do that either through SFTP or if we're using a staging environment on a local laptop or PC, we can do that through there. Once we've done that, we're going to scan for infections using a malware scanner plugin. Make sure everything is clean. Revise user accounts. If any accounts are inactive, disable them. Again, even here, err on the side of caution. If you're not sure, block. The user can always ask us for access after the fact. It's fine. Reset all passwords, and if possible, add a password policy to make sure that passwords are so many characters long, special characters, avoid recycling of passwords, etc. Once that's done, we're going to check for updates, make sure everything is updated as much as possible. Then we're going to excuse me, install Melapress file monitor. We're going to do a scan, so we have a baseline of how the files look now. And once we've done that, we can push the site to live. And
Good,
that next week, we're going to discuss WordPress hardening,
good. Yeah,
which will make the website more secure in the future.
good, very good. Yeah, it's very important. Of course, I can't stress enough how important testing is. It's very
And
important
yeah,
to
sorry,
test
it
before
was. Yeah.
uploading live. Even after you upload live, it's fine. Yeah, and as Joel said, it's always important to be cautious. If there is a user account where you're not sure, yeah, like if you have the means to disable it, do it. But by default, WordPress only allows you to delete an account, delete it anyway, and as long as it's, because usually in WordPress you have content associated with an account. So when you delete it, make sure that content is associated with another account. Otherwise, it will delete that content. But yeah, it's always safer to delete an account, because at the end of the day, a user or someone like can always ask you, like, I tried to log in, I cannot log in anymore, and you can always recreate that account.
Exactly.
Good. Thanks a lot for watching. Thank you for your patience in the beginning. It's our first time live. Hopefully, we'll be doing this every week. Every Thursday at 4 p.m. Central European Time and at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for the correction, Matthew, because at first we said 10. It's our mistake. Yeah, if you're watching a recorded version of this and you have any questions about WordPress security, managing a WordPress website, managing users, like running a WordPress website, you can always email us at questions@melapress.com, or you can always, of course, log into our live sessions and ask us any questions. Anything else, Joel, you'd like to add?
No,
Or no?
that's all. Yeah, from me.
Good. Thank you very much for watching. As Joel explained, next week we'll be discussing the basics of website hardening, which is kind of like the next step in this process, because your website has been hacked. You've cleaned it now. Now there's another. You need to do more work, and then the one after we'll be discussing also like the post mortem, which is very important because it will allow you basically to identify what was the cause of the hack, or from where. people were able to hack your website, and yeah, and hopefully close the security hole so this won't happen again. Thank you very much. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channels on LinkedIn. If you go to our website, especially, you find all the links at the bottom. You have Facebook, LinkedIn, X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and YouTube. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.